I designed my sister's entire wedding, every monogram, every invitation, even the gold-trimmed menus guests would hold in their perfectly manicured hands. But when I showed up at the venue in the emerald green dress I spent days picking out, they told me my name wasn't on the guest list. And then my mother looked me in the eyes and said, "You're not family anymore." This isn't just one of those revenge stories. It's what happens when you spend your whole life begging for a place in a home that never wanted to set the table for you. So yeah, stay with me, because if you've ever been the extra in your own family's photo, this one's for you. Growing up, I learned to read silence better than most people read books. My name's Sabrina Collins. I'm 28 now, but I can still remember the exact feeling of sitting at the dinner table as a kid, legs swinging off the chair, while my mum gushed over my older sister Olivia's science fair project, some basic volcano made with vinegar and baking soda, like she'd just discovered nuclear fusion. Meanwhile, I sat there with ink-stained fingers, holding a detailed graphite portrait I'd drawn of our cat, which my teacher had taped to the classroom door with a gold star. My mum barely glanced at it. "Oh, that's nice," she said before turning back to Olivia. That was always the vibe. Olivia was fireworks. I was a steady candle, useful when the power went out, but otherwise unnoticed. Our dad, Greg, was the only one who really saw me. He'd stop by my room sometimes just to ask what I was drawing. He wasn't an artist, not by a long shot. He was a tax advisor who found joy in spreadsheets and compound interest, but he listened. I still remember one evening when he leaned over my shoulder while I sketched a pair of ballet shoes and said softly, "You've got something rare, Sabrina. The way you see things, that's going to matter someday." That little sentence stayed with me. It was one of the few times I felt chosen. But when I was 15, he died. Heart attack. One second he was watching Jeopardy and teasing the TV contestants. The next, he was gone. Just like that. The world didn't slow down. Olivia still had cheer practice. Mom still hosted her wine club. And me, I just kind of disappeared. At the funeral, my mum clutched Olivia like a lifeline. I stood off to the side, holding one of Dad's old flannel ties, trying to breathe through a throat full of cement. No one even noticed I was crying. I told myself it was okay. Maybe they were grieving in their own way, but days turned into months, and it became clear they weren't grieving, they were reorganizing. Mum threw herself into Olivia's world. Shopping trips, social brunches, college visits. Olivia was a social rocket, and Mom was determined to be her launch pad. And me? "You've always been independent, Sabrina," she'd say, like it was some badge of honor. But it wasn't a compliment. It was an excuse. It was permission to ignore me. So I learned to pour myself into art. My sketchbook was the one place where I felt like I mattered. The pages didn't interrupt or roll their eyes. They let me speak in lines and light. I got good. Good enough that one of my teachers submitted my portfolio to a national student competition. I won. First place. There was even a write-up in the local paper. When I brought it home, Mom clipped it out and stuck it on the fridge next to Olivia's homecoming flyer. "That's sweet," she said. Then, without missing a beat, she added, "Olivia would have been artistic too if she hadn't been so busy with leadership roles." That word, sweet, landed like an insult. Not impressive, not remarkable, just cute. But I didn't fight it. I just tried harder. Because part of me still believed that if I could just be better, win more, shine brighter, they'd finally look at me the way they looked at her. When I got accepted into the Rhode Island School of Design on a full ride, I thought, this is it. Olivia had dropped out of community college 6 months in. I was going to one of the best design schools in the country. At dinner, I shared the news. Olivia smirked. "Guess some people get lucky." And my mum? She didn't even look at me, just nodded and said, Well, not everyone's made for the real world. Then turned to Olivia. You've always had people skills. That's more valuable anyway. I felt the air leave the room, but I didn't say anything. That's what being the quiet one does to you. You learn to swallow the ache and just keep walking. I left for college, started a freelance career while juggling school, graduated early, got hired by a boutique agency in Chicago, rented my own one-bedroom, paid off my student loans with side gigs. And still, I called home every Sunday. I sent gifts, remembered birthdays, offered help, because I wasn't done hoping. I wasn't done chasing the idea that maybe someday, if I showed up enough, they'd finally turn and say, "We're proud of you, Sabrina. We see you." But you know what they say about chasing something that keeps running? Eventually, you realize you're not in a race. You're being dragged, and I was tired of dragging myself toward people who kept moving the finish line. So when Olivia got engaged and Mom started planning the wedding of the decade, I thought maybe this is my shot. I offered to help, offered everything really, time, skills, late nights, premium materials. And they said yes, not because they saw me, but because I was useful. At the time, I didn't know I was building the wedding that would break me, but we'll get there. When Olivia got engaged, I didn't feel excited. I felt useful. It wasn't the kind of "I'm so happy for you" feeling that sisters are supposed to have. It was more like, maybe this is my shot. Maybe if I give them something beautiful enough, they'll finally see me. That thought alone should have been a red flag, but I ignored it like I always did. The wedding was going to be massive, not just a celebration, but a full-blown social event. Ethan, her fiancé, came from old money. His mother sent mood boards. His sister wanted it to be Pinterest-worthy but timeless. My mum, she was basically acting like the bride herself, so I offered to help with the design. Not just help, I took over everything. Menus, programs, monograms, welcome signage, custom cocktail napkins, a floral crest for the dance floor. I built a full identity system for their entire day. I even stayed up until 3 a.m. researching luxury paper stock and called in a favour with a former vendor for foil stamping. I poured myself into it because I believed if I made it perfect, I'd finally be invited in. I didn't ask to be paid, not a dime. In fact, I put in over $4,200 of my own money up front for test prints, calligraphy ink, embossing tools, and upgraded printing techniques. I figured I'd be reimbursed, but the topic never came up. And I didn't bring it up either, because deep down, I wasn't doing it for the money. I was doing it for a seat at the table. That part hurts to say out loud, but maybe some of you know exactly what I mean. Have you ever worked so hard to please someone, thinking this time they'll notice, only to be treated like you were just expected? Let me know in the comments if that's ever been you. I need to know I'm not alone in this. Anyway, back to the planning. At first it felt kind of hopeful. Claire, Ethan's mum, was impressed. Olivia even complimented a font I chose for the invites. Mum sent texts like, "You really have a knack for this. Olivia's so lucky to have a talented sister." I screenshotted every one. For a minute I let myself believe I was finally in, but then the little cracks started showing. I asked Olivia for her guest list so I could start laying out the seating chart. She took 4 days to respond and then sent me a PDF with all my cousins, uncles, extended relatives. But my name wasn't on it. No Sabrina Collins anywhere. I told myself it was a mistake. I asked gently, "Hey, just double checking, I didn't see my name on the seating doc. Should I just add myself?" Olivia responded with a voice memo. "Oh, yeah, totally forgot. Mom and I were editing it late at night. Probably got deleted by accident. Just go ahead and plug yourself in. No big deal." No big deal. I said okay, but the words felt like broken glass in my mouth. Then I noticed that none of the stationery drafts had my name on them. not even in the family of the bride section. I was designing around myself like I didn't exist. So I brought it up to Mom, not accusingly, just softly. I said, "Hey, I haven't gotten an invite yet. I know I don't need one, but I thought it'd be special to have, something to keep." She paused for half a beat, then laughed. "Sabrina, of course you're invited. Your family. Invitations are for guests. You're the one making it all look good, remember?" I nodded, smiled. But inside, something went quiet. Not broken, not yet, just muted. They never said I wasn't part of the wedding, but they kept making sure I wasn't visible in it. Still, I kept designing, I kept showing up, like always. When Mom asked if I could move the crest a little more gold and a little less leafy, I did 5 versions. When Olivia said the seating chart looked a little too square, I spent 6 hours reformatting it diagonally, which made absolutely no sense, but still, fine. I told myself, push through, the day will come, they'll see you in everything. But the truth was, they saw me as decoration, not someone to celebrate, just someone to use. And I think what really guts me now is I knew deep down what was happening, but I didn't stop it because I kept hoping that love, real family love, was waiting at the end of the job. Instead, what I got was silence. Silence when I asked for input. Silence when I emailed updates. Silence when I said, "Let me know if I should order extra invites for our side of the family." Sometimes silence is louder than words, and this silence, it told me exactly where I stood, but still, I showed up with a clutch full of extra menus, emergency safety pins, and double-sided tape. Because part of me refused to believe they'd erase me from something I built with my own hands. The signs were all there, but when you've been trained to accept scraps as affection, you learn to see insults as oversights and erasure as an accident. A week before the wedding, I opened the final spreadsheet Olivia sent me for seating assignments, rows of names, colour-coded tables, perfectly organised, except mine wasn't there. Not at table 2 with Mum and the cousins, not with college friends or extended family, not even in the overflow table we joked about calling people who barely made the cut. I hit Ctrl+F and typed my own name. No results found. My stomach dropped so fast I had to sit down. I triple-checked. I searched by last name, by initials. I even looked through the backup file. Still nothing. I waited a day before saying anything, partly because I was hoping it was just a weird version error, and partly because I already knew what I'd find. The next evening, I called Olivia. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my tone breezy. "Quick thing, I don't see my name on the seating chart. Am I missing a newer version?" There was a pause. Then she said, "Oh, yeah, so Mom and I figured you'd probably be too busy helping with setup and all that. You probably won't be sitting much anyway." I blinked. "Wait, what?" "You know how weddings are? Chaos. You'll be running around checking signage and adjusting things, right? Didn't seem worth assigning a seat you'd never use." I was silent. She continued, "I mean, you're not really a guest, you're kinda behind the scenes. So we just thought, you thought I'd just not eat." She laughed like I was being dramatic. "You'll grab a plate during cocktail hour or something. We'll make sure there's food." Cocktail hour. Grab a plate. Like a vendor. Like I was catering staff. Like I didn't just spend months building the entire visual identity of this event. With every ounce of skill I had, I felt heat rising in my chest. But I swallowed it. "I'll make it work," I muttered. Because what else was I supposed to say? That I was hurt? That I wanted to feel like family, not a freelancer? That I'd spent $200 of my own money on this wedding and didn't even have a chair? I hung up the phone and sat in my apartment, staring at the mock-up of the final program still open on my laptop. In gold script, "Welcome to the wedding of Olivia Collins and Ethan Jacobs. No mention of design credits. No acknowledgement of the work I'd done. It was like I was erasing myself, one file at a time. A few nights later, while checking layout proofs for the website I had built, I noticed something odd. The footer, where I'd originally written "designed by Sabrina Collins, visual consultant," was gone. In its place, creative direction, Olivia Collins. I stared at the screen. I refreshed the page. Still there. I scrolled back through the site's edit history, and sure enough, someone had deleted my credit 2 days prior. I called Mom. I didn't even think. I just reacted. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice level. "Did you change the credit line on the website?" She took a breath. "Sabrina, this isn't about recognition. It's about family." Olivia felt like it looked unbalanced. Unbalanced? She's the bride. You know how emotional this time is for her. Let her have the spotlight. I could feel something in me crack. "It's not about spotlight," I said quietly. "It's about the fact that I've been doing all this work and I'm disappearing from it." Mum's voice chilled. "You've always been so focused on being seen. This isn't your day, Sabrina. It's hers. Try not to make this about you." And just like that, she ended the call. No goodbye, no thank you, nothing. It was the kind of silence that says, "You should be grateful we let you help at all." I stared at my screen for a long time. Then I opened the files for the final print pieces. I thought about deleting them, thought about pulling my name from the project entirely. But then I remembered something Dad once told me. I was 12, sitting at the dining table sketching while he sorted receipts. He looked up and said, "Sabrina, your gift doesn't disappear just because someone else doesn't clap for it." So I didn't delete the files. I finalized every piece. Menus, signage, floor decals, thank you cards. I finished them like a professional, even though I felt like a ghost. I even ordered extras, because that's what someone on the team does. That's what I was now, right? Team, not family. I bought a dress that matched the wedding palette, emerald green with a square neckline and soft drape. It made my skin glow, even in my bedroom's yellow lighting. When it arrived, I tried it on, stood in front of the mirror and whispered, "This time they'll see you." But deep down I already knew. They didn't want to see me, they just wanted my hands. I showed up early. I always show up early, especially for other people. The wedding was at Lakeside Country Club, fancy without being gaudy, just the kind of venue my mum would obsess over. The morning air smelled like hydrangeas and hairspray. Vendors were already buzzing, florists unboxing centerpieces, photographers checking light, catering staff rolling carts past velvet ropes. I parked in the back where the staff usually parks. Old habit, I guess. I wore the emerald green dress, the one I spent too much on, not to impress anyone but to match the palette I created for the wedding. Silky, understated, with a square neckline and just enough slit to feel confident. I even did my hair the way Mom used to like it when I was little. Soft waves tucked behind one ear. Maybe some part of me still wanted her to say, "You look beautiful, Sabrina." But that part should have stayed home. I walked in through the vendor side entrance. Vanessa, the wedding coordinator, spotted me near the gift table. "Oh, you're the graphic designer, right?" "I'm Sabrina, the bride's sister." She blinked, confused, then flipped through her clipboard. "Oh, right, sorry, I didn't realize you were family. You're not on the list for pre-ceremony access." That stung, but I shook it off. "I just want to check the signage and programs, make sure everything printed right." She gave me a polite nod. "They're already out. Everything looks perfect." I smiled tightly. "Thanks, I know." I made my way through the reception area. It was beautiful. My designs were everywhere. gold-foiled menus at each place setting, the custom crest I built stamped across the bar signage, calligraphed seating charts mounted in vintage brass frames I found at an estate sale. It was stunning. And it looked like someone else had done it. No Sabrina, no mention, just Olivia and Ethan stamped onto everything like it all came out of thin air. Even the small designed by credit on the welcome sign was gone. I felt like a ghost in a museum I built. Still, I kept walking. Up to the bridal suite. I knocked once. A girl I vaguely remembered from Olivia's college opened the door. "Oh, you're Sabrina." Her smile faltered for a second. "Right. Hi. Let me check if it's a good time." Before she turned away, I heard Claire's voice inside. "Is she gone? I really don't need any drama today." Then my mother appeared behind the door. "Sabrina," she said with a tight-lipped smile, "what are you doing up here?" "I wanted to say hi, and maybe see if Olivia needed anything." "She needs calm today," Mom said, stepping into the hallway and pulling the door shut behind her. "You understand. I'm not here to create chaos. I just wanted to wish her well." Mom's eyes scanned me up and down, then landed on my clutch like she was checking for weapons. "Maybe head downstairs. Make sure the place cards are aligned. That's where you shine." I froze. I'd heard that line before, at my senior showcase when she told people, "Sabrina doesn't like attention. She's more of a background person." I forced a smile. "Can I just see her for a minute?" "She's overwhelmed. Don't take it personally." Before I could answer, she added flatly, "Today isn't about you." And then, before I could take another breath, she said it. "You've always kept yourself separate. Maybe it's time you accept that." I stared at her. "I'm your daughter," I said, voice cracking. Her reply was quiet, cold. "You were, but today, you're just someone who helped with the decor." For a moment, the hallway spun. I clutched my clutch tighter, blinking hard. I wanted to scream, to tear the floral crest off the walls, to remind her this whole place only looked the way it did because of me, but I didn't. I just turned around and walked away. Downstairs, the room was filling with guests. Some I recognized, some I didn't. No one looked at me. No one said hello. I spotted the official guest list at the front desk, an iPad held by a catering staffer. "Name?" he asked. "Sabrina Collins." He typed, paused, typed again. "I'm sorry, you're not listed." "There's no way. I'm her sister. I built this wedding." He gave me a look of awkward sympathy. "Let me get the coordinator." Vanessa came back, glanced at the screen and shook her head. "I'm so sorry. Your name's not on the approved guest list. I don't have authority to override it." I stepped back just as Mom walked up behind her. "What's going on?" "They're saying I'm not on the guest list," I said, almost laughing from how absurd it sounded. Mum tilted her head, feigning concern. "Claire wanted peace today, and Sabrina, you've never really fit into this kind of thing. Don't make this about ego." I choked out, "I'm not family now?" She didn't even blink. "You said it, not me." I turned, heels clicking hard against the marble, the emerald green satin swishing like a betrayal across my legs. As I passed the reception table one last time, something caught my eye, the vendor brochure left out for curious guests. Custom event branding by Olivia Collins, Creative Direction. I stopped breathing. They'd not only erased me, they replaced me. My sister took credit for everything, and my mother helped her do it. That was the moment the final thread snapped, not from anger, from clarity. I didn't cry when she said it. I didn't cry when she told me straight-faced that I wasn't family. I didn't cry when they denied me at the door. Or when I saw Olivia's name printed where mine should have been. Or when I realized my own mother had watched it happen and chose silence. No. I held it together, right until I reached the courtyard. That's where it hit me, not like a punch, but like a slow cave-in, like my ribs forgot how to hold me up. I saw a stone bench near the fountain, one of the spots we'd discussed months ago for guest selfies. The gold signage I had lettered by hand still sat to the left of the arrangement, cheerful and festive and entirely detached from the person who had made it. I sat down. People walked past, laughing, posing, clicking champagne glasses. A few glanced at me, then moved on. I probably looked like a discarded +1. No one asked. I took out my phone and scrolled through the gallery of work-in-progress shots, photos I had snapped at 2 a.m. while assembling ribbon bundles, sourcing vellum overlays, and adjusting hex code palettes. They were beautiful and utterly invisible, just like me. I hit the call button and tapped a single name, Chloe Park. She answered on the second ring. Sabrina? My voice came out like a whisper, barely more than breath. They didn't let me in. A pause, then the sound of keys. Where are you? Lakeside, outside, by the fountain. I'm coming, she said. Stay there. She didn't ask questions, didn't try to make sense of it. She just drove. 28 minutes later, I saw her blue Corolla swing into the circle drive like she owned the place. She didn't park, just pulled up, left the engine running, and opened the door. I stood, my heels biting into the backs of my feet. She didn't say anything, just walked up and pulled me into the kind of hug that dissolves your spine. And that's when I finally broke. Not polite tears, not gentle sniffles, the kind of crying that shakes your whole body, the kind you try to hold in for years and then it just tears loose. Chloe guided me into the passenger seat, grabbed my hand and drove. I folded every napkin. I hand-glued the crest on the welcome board, and they said, I'm not family. She didn't say, I'm sorry. She said, they don't get to define what family is anymore. We got to her apartment, warm lights, cozy chaos, and a pile of laundry she pushed aside without a word. She gave me her comfiest hoodie and a pair of fuzzy socks. The emerald dress came off. I folded it carefully and placed it on her reading chair. It looked expensive, important. Now it looked like a joke. That night, I couldn't sleep. Chloe made chamomile tea and sat on the floor next to the couch while I stared at the ceiling. At one point I said, I feel like I built a house and then got evicted from it. She looked at me and said, you didn't get evicted. You walked out. That place wasn't safe. I didn't answer, but I held her words like a safety rail. The next few days passed in a kind of blur. I didn't go to work, didn't answer emails, didn't post. I didn't tell anyone what happened, except Chloe. She gently nudged me toward therapy. I love you, she said, but you're not supposed to survive this alone. She found someone who had a cancellation, Dr. Rivera, a licensed trauma therapist with soft eyes and walls the colour of chamomile. I almost didn't go. What would I even say? Hi, I let my whole family use me like a free wedding planner and then they cut me out of the story. But I went. Dr. Rivera didn't ask what happened. She said, start where it hurts the most. I started with the wedding, but it unravelled fast. The missing seating card turned into the missing invitations, which turned into the missing credit lines, which turned into missing birthdays, missing praise, missing hugs, missing me. When I finally stopped talking, she looked at me and said, Sabrina, what you've described isn't a single event. It's a system. Your family taught you that love is earned through performance. And when you stopped performing, They took the love away. I didn't cry, but I felt like something inside me quietly shifted. I left her office with a tiny scrap of something new in my chest. Not peace, not yet, but a space where peace could maybe, one day, fit. That night, I opened my laptop, not to delete anything, just to create. A blank canvas stared back at me. I didn't design something for them. I didn't design to prove anything. I designed for me. And for the first time in years, it felt like I was telling the truth with my hands. 3 months later, I opened the doors to my own studio, Emerald House Creative, named after the dress I wore the day I realized I didn't belong where I'd been begging to stay. It was just a small space above a coffee shop in Logan Square. The ceilings were cracked, the radiator clicked like it was trying to beatbox, and my desk was literally 2 sawhorses and a door from Craigslist. But it was mine, and more importantly, it was built on truth. No fake credits, no borrowed names, no one taking bows for work they didn't touch. I put my entire heart into my first campaign, branding for a non-profit, helping kids from foster care express themselves through art. The logo was simple, 2 open palms forming a window. It won a quiet little award. A client forwarded the project to a friend. That friend turned out to be the creative director for a national youth program. A week later, I got a contract for $37,000. I sat there in my hoodie, blinking at the screen. Not because of the number, but because someone finally said, "Your work is worth this." Thanksgiving rolled around. No calls from Olivia, no invitation from Mom. But a box of wine arrived at my doorstep with a card in Olivia's handwriting. "Hope your Thanksgiving is full of warmth. Thank you for the invite. Maybe next year." I didn't cry. I didn't gloat. I just set the wine on the counter and went back to prepping the turkey. That night, we squeezed 8 people into my tiny kitchen. Chloe brought mashed potatoes. My neighbour Reggie brought 3 kinds of pie. Naomi from my co-working space brought her dog and a homemade apple cider that may or may not have had tequila in it. It was messy, no one matched, the chairs were borrowed, we ran out of forks and had to share, and it was perfect. After dinner, Chloe helped me wash dishes. She looked at me across the sink and said, "You look lighter." I smiled. I feel like me. Not who they needed me to be, not who I kept trying to be. She held up her glass of leftover cranberry punch and said, "To the family you build." I raised mine back. "To the ones who never make you earn love." Have you ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to love you but didn't? Or maybe you're in the middle of that choice right now. Drop a in the comments if you've ever felt like Sabrina, overlooked, erased, but still standing. Because maybe you didn't get the seat at their table, but that doesn't mean you don't deserve one at yours.